Okay, so listen. Y'all remember that video I did about Ashlee and how she was out here saying her past wasn't that bad? Now here's where it gets interesting, y'all. Ashlee has been speaking about abuse for years. Like, this is not new information. She's been consistent, she's been vocal, she's been telling her story. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she comes out and says, it wasn't that bad. Excuse me? Let's be real for a second. When somebody switches up their narrative like that after years of saying the same thing, that raises red flags. Like, major red flags. Because either something sinister is going on behind the scenes, or somebody got to her. That's what I'm thinking. This feels like a cover-up, and I'm not the only one who thinks so. But hold on, because this is where it gets really wild. Have y'all noticed that Ashlee looks exactly like Towanda? Like, I'm talking mirror image. She looks more like Towanda than she looks like, well, who's she supposed to look like? And I know this sounds crazy, I know it does, but hear me out. Could Towanda actually be her real mother? Now, I don't have proof, okay? I'm not sitting here with receipts and DNA tests, but the resemblance, plus this sudden shift in her story, something is not right, y'all. Now let me ask y'all something. Ashlee has been telling her story for years, right? So why is it that barely anyone has heard it until recently? This girl comes from the Braxton family. You know, Toni Braxton, Tamar, they're famous. They've been on reality TV. So why does Ashlee have such low visibility? I'm gonna say it. I think she might have been shadow banned, because when you look at her video views, they're suspiciously low. Like, way too low for someone connected to that level of fame. Her message should have been reaching way more people. But it's like her content was being suppressed. And that's not an accident, boo. That's intentional. Now here's where it gets even darker. Ashlee's father allegedly wants to silence her, even if it means hurting her in the process. And let me remind y'all, Ashlee's sister passed away. Her sister, and now people are asking questions about what really happened in that family and what the real motives are. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I believe there is way more to this story than what Ashlee has even revealed so far. And that's saying something because she's already said a lot. Let me tell y'all a little story from my own life, because this is important. I took care of my niece when she was little, right? And when you're the primary caretaker of a child, especially in those early years, that child assumes you are the mother. They don't know any different. That's just what their brain tells them. So now I'm looking at Ashlee's situation and I'm wondering, what if she doesn't actually know who her real mother is? What if she was raised believing one thing, but the truth is something completely different? Because let's be real, like, the Braxton family dynamic is unusual. It's secretive. Things don't add up. And I'm starting to think there's a reason for that. Now listen to this, y'all. Ashlee claims that her mother's name was removed from her birth certificate. Hold up, run that back, removed from a birth certificate? Now, I don't know about y'all, but I need someone to explain to me how that's even legally possible. Because last time I checked, a birth certificate is a legal document. You can't just go in there with some whiteout and erase somebody's name. That's not how this works. You would need court orders, you would need legal processes. This is not something that just happens. So either Ashlee was told some false information when she was a child, or, and I hate to keep coming back to this, but it needs to be said, could Towanda actually be her real mother? Because that would explain a lot, allegedly. And then, Ashlee mentions she has brothers. Brothers? Where did these brothers come from? This is the first I'm hearing about any brothers. And it confuses the whole timeline. Because if she has brothers, that means there's a whole other part of this story that we don't know about. There are hidden family members. There's secrecy on top of secrecy. What are they hiding, y'all? Now let's talk about the history of abuse allegations in this family, because it's not just Ashlee. Tamar Braxton has also alleged abuse within the family. Ashlee accused her father of some serious misconduct. And then there's Gabe, Trina's ex-husband, who was involved in those scandals. So when Ashlee was talking about certain things, we can pretty much confirm she was likely referring to him. This family has a pattern, okay? This is not isolated. This is systemic. So after all of that, and after years of speaking her truth, Ashlee comes out in her recent video and says, it wasn't that bad. I'm sorry, but how does someone minimize their trauma like that after being so vocal about it? Something doesn't sit right with me. Did somebody get to her? Did somebody threaten her? Because healing doesn't mean you deny what happened to you. Healing means you acknowledge it, process it, and move forward. It doesn't mean you pretend it wasn't as serious as you originally said. Now let's talk about memory for a second, because this is important. When you're a child, your early memories start to fade. And when adults around you tell you stories about your childhood over and over again, those stories can become your truth, even if they're not actually what happened. So I'm wondering, was Ashlee fed a false version of her childhood? Is she believing what she was told instead of what actually happened? Because that would make a lot of sense given everything else we're seeing here. Let me come back to this birth certificate thing one more time, because it's really bothering me. Changing a birth certificate is extremely rare. Like, you would need legal processes like adoption, court orders, all kinds of official documentation. It's not something that just happens casually. So Ashlee's claim? It sounds legally improbable at best. And that makes me wonder, where did this version of events even come from? Who told her this, and why? So now we're circling back to Towanda, because I can't let this go. Ashlee looks like Towanda. Like, she looks more like Towanda than Towanda's own daughter does. Let that sink in. Is Towanda actually Ashlee's biological mother? I'm just asking questions here, y'all, but the resemblance is uncanny. And with everything else that's not adding up, this theory is starting to make more and more sense. Now let's talk about Toni Braxton's response to all of this. Because, oh honey, this was rich. Toni came out publicly and said the family was surprised by Ashlee's accusations. Surprised? Toni, baby, Ashlee has years of videos online talking about this. Years. So how are y'all surprised? You're not surprised. You're pretending to be surprised to protect the family's image. Let's call it what it is. That was a lie, and everybody knows it. Okay, so in an old interview, Ashlee talked about her dad's new wife calling her and her sister racial slurs. Already terrible, right?
Yeah. She put her name on our papers and things like that.
Oh, wow, okay.
And so there was...
But then she said this woman put her name on their birth certificates. Once again, that is not legally possible, y'all. You cannot just add your name to someone else's birth certificate because you married their father. That's not how any of this works. So what I think happened is that Ashlee was told this story as a child, and she repeated it because that's what she believed to be true. But the adults around her, they were feeding her false information. Now I want to be clear about something. When you listen to Ashlee speak, when you hear her talk about these documents, about her family, about what she went through, her trauma is real. I believe her trauma is real, but I also believe that some of the specific details she's sharing might be inaccurate because of the misinformation she was given as a child, and that's not her fault. I just cannot wrap my head around how much the Braxton family is hiding. Like, how do you hide this much? Birth certificates don't change just because somebody remarries. That's not a thing! So what are they really hiding? And why is none of this adding up? The level of secrecy in this family is wild, y'all. Let me come back to these brothers for a second, because Ashlee specifically said she has 2 half-brothers. Now, for those who don't know, a half-brother means you share one parent. In this case, most likely the father. So these boys exist somewhere. But why doesn't the family ever talk about them? Why are they hidden? Is this intentional? Because it sure seems intentional. Now, I have a theory. I think Michael, that's the father, might be sending cease and desist letters to try to silence Ashlee. And why would he do that? Probably because he's trying to hide his alleged involvement in some serious abuse. And once again, this brings me back to the Towanda theory. If Towanda and Michael are actually Ashlee's parents, that would explain so much about why this family is so desperate to keep everything quiet. Let's talk about the hypocrisy for a second, because this is what really gets me. The Braxtons have been on reality TV for years. They've built their brand on being this open, transparent family that shares everything. But behind the scenes, they're hiding all of this? It doesn't make sense, y'all. None of it makes sense. How are you gonna be on TV pretending to be an open book when you've got all these deep, dark family secrets?
You had stepbrothers. Did they come with her? Were they part of the package, or did they come along later?
They came along later.
Okay.
So my sister is 3 years younger than I am. My oldest younger brother is 4 years. And then after that, it's 8 years.
Okay.
So they came after. And it's unfortunate that even now we don't have a relationship because you were just pit against each other.
Yeah.
So the household was like all for one and one for all. You better guard up.
Wow.
And it's not really healthy.
No, definitely not. No. You know, I was wondering, like, what would the effects of those circumstances be on the younger brothers, because it would be very difficult for them to, I guess, develop respect towards you and your sister.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We don't see eye to eye because the way they see life is very different than the way I've seen it. And so for them, it's hard, which is understandable.
Yeah.
When I'm speaking these things about their mother, these are quite harsh accusations
Of course.
that I'm saying.
Yeah.
And if you were not there to grasp what was happening, then perhaps you think and be like, I think this is a little far-fetched.
Yes.
And that was something that was really hard for me because I come from this family.
So let me play this back one more time. Ashlee mentions she has brothers, half-brothers specifically. At first I thought maybe she meant stepbrothers, but no. She said half-brothers. That means they share a parent. So here's what I know. There is a lot being hidden in the Braxton family. A lot. And I think Ashlee's recent comments downplaying her trauma are either influenced or pressured by someone in that family who wants to keep all of this quiet. And that brings me to my final question. The question I keep coming back to. The question that nobody wants to answer. Is Towanda Ashlee's real mother? That's all I'm asking, y'all. I'm just asking the question because based on everything we've seen, everything that doesn't add up, all the contradictions and the secrecy, it would make sense. But I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Do you believe the Towanda theory? Do you think Ashlee is being silenced? What do you think is really going on with this family? Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video where we're going to keep digging into this mess. Because trust me, we are not done with the Braxtons.